Hello. It's fantastic to be here. Well, the first thing I'd like to be slightly concerned about is everyone in your chat knowing that they watch a psychopath on a regular starting. I mean, who starts the stream at 1:45? On the hour, half past, sure, but 1:45? Madmen. Some men just want to watch the world burn. Sam is coming through fine. That's fine. I can carry this whole thing, you know. These broad shoulders, they carry a lot.
Okay, testing. Can you people hear me
I,
now?
I'll
Can you still hear me, Sam?
I can indeed.
Okay.
If you want, I can fill in for them. I can do both sides of the conversation. Well, thank you, Sam, from the Base Brush. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I've been a fan of yours for years. Well, thank you, Karl. It's really great to be here as well. You know, I was shocked that it took so long to be. Oh well, you know, there's a waiting list and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, you do a fairly good impression, but I think you were a bit too hairy to get it right.
I mean, I could try do the accent, but I think we would just both end up being insulted.
Yeah. Scottish Maltese accent. Yeah. That I think that would be a terrifying thing, which we should spare the internet.
We should switch accents. You should interview me with the worst Scottish accent you can do.
Oh, aye, that's probably something we can do. I probably
That's not bad.
need a couple of bottles in me first.
Are you saying because the Scottish are always half cut? My goodness, I've
Uh,
been on just 3 minutes and I've already been insulted, called hairy, called drunk. Sounds good.
yeah, just an average Jersey, even if it's Sunday. Okay, let's get back to saying hi to everyone in the chat. So, Earthman Brick, you've been in there for a couple of hours now, so I think that got some kind of early bird award. Hi to Charlene,
Well
Cross
done.
from Campaign Terrain, The Basic Brush, I see you're in there as well. Karl makes stuff, that bastard is here again. Robert Evans, how you doing, man? Sean, good to see you. And Dungeon Matron, great to see you again. Cross is saying, don't you just hate it when they're shy like this? Aww.
That's okay, Carl. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm used to dealing with shy people. Oh, you mean me? Oh,
Yeah, I think he's
oh
talking about you.
sorry.
So, Sam, how are you doing? And would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Oh, talking about myself. Well, firstly, I have to say I absolutely love your top. Is that from Arena Rex, or is that just it happens to be looking like one of my favorite characters, one from one of my favorite games? Have you been researching to me, listening to all my stuff, or is this pure coincidence?
No, it's just pure coincidence. It's a T-shirt from Nîmes, I believe, in France. My parents got it for me as a souvenir a few years back.
Very nice. Oh, that's grand. Well, maybe I can plug Arena Rex whilst we're here anyway. Red Republic don't get talked about often enough, I always think.
Yeah, definitely
But,
talk about it.
myself, my name's Sam. I started the Basic Brush about 10 years ago in my head. But I think, like a lot of us hobbyists, we always think, oh no, there's still plenty of time for that. You can do it. You can do it later, or something comes up that needs your time instead. And basically, because we had a baby arriving in April, I was like, in January, if I don't start it now, it's never gonna happen at all. And so that's why I decided to take this absolute plunge and go right now or never. Let's give it a go.
And you've been quite active on that. I mean, apart from the Basic Brush, you were also doing the Hobby Hoarders podcast. Is that correct?
Yeah, the hobby hoarders. As you can tell, I like chatting about myself and talking about it for any opportunity to, I don't know, try and monetize something. What? No. Basically, I would have chats with my friends, whether it's playing video games or whether
Mhm.
it's just chatting and hobbying at the same time. And I thought, why can I not just record this and have other people join the conversation? Now, previously on the Hobby Hoarders podcast, what we used to do is we used to record it. That
Mhm.
would be about 4 hours worth of footage. And then what we would do is I would take it away, have to listen through it all, remove anything that would get us cancelled, because Matt loves to try and do that. It's almost a game. And then add all the pictures and whatnot in as well. But the problem was that is it would take me an hour to drive to his place, about 4 or 5 hours to get everything recorded, an hour to drive back. Then I had to listen to it. Then I had to edit it. So we switched just recently. We did our first ever live stream, and it worked out really well, and it saved us just a ridiculous amount of time. And so then Matt immediately decided to fly off to Thailand for 3 weeks. So I figured, you know what? Why not give this live streaming malarkey? I've watched your streams and they went down well. So I thought, why don't I make it, all about me?
And you're doing hangouts every Wednesday, right?
Every
Like
other Wednesday. So we
every
do
other Wednesday.
the
Okay.
the podcast one Wednesday, and then the other Wednesday I'll be doing my own hangout. So it means that there's always something to watch on a Wednesday, and no excuse not to get miniatures done on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've got that thing about you should be hobbying while you're watching the hangout, but no, I'm not doing that. I'm just quietly having a
Oh,
coffee
you're
and
not.
listening or whatever. Yeah,
Just
I'm contrary that way.
that's it's not a true podcast. You're supposed to be doing painting at the same time. My sort of mythos for it is if I show you what I'm doing and I put it on the table at the end, then you can see that I've done. Is that coming through on the microphone?
Uh, your young assistant? Yeah, yeah, just
No.
slightly, but that's fine.
Oh, I can change it on Discord a little bit. Oh, baby has gone out of the room. I mean, that's another reason that what I want to sort of represent in the channel is the fact that even if you're a parent, you should still be able to fit in time. Although, if you've been watching my release schedule, there was somewhat of a big gap when, let's say, Young Assistant arrived and there was no videos for about a month while I was like, I can't, I'm just too tired.
Yeah, but look on the bright side. In a month, in a couple of years, he'll be helping you paint stuff, whether you like it or not, probably.
Well, that's what I always thought. I, I think it's a great fear for all us nerds. Now, I get that there are nerds who like to play 40k and enjoy football, and that's grand. You're a special breed, but I think the majority of people in the world like football or they like miniatures, and so being able to bring one that likes exactly the same miniature games as you, that's the main reason to have kids, right? To prime your models, to clean your models, to build your models, do all the jobs that you don't want to do. That is how it works, right?
Okay, Earthman Brick is saying, sounds like you're from Morayshire. Is that a place, I guess?
Yeah, it almost sounds like something from Lord of the Rings. I mean, I do like 11 Seas, and I do have hairy feet. Unfortunately, Lord of the Rings, tragically, is more New Zealand than it is Scotland. We've got some nice things. We've got little scenes from Game of Thrones, but I don't believe we've got anything like that. We've got scenes from Harry Potter. If you like the train, then you'll definitely want to visit Scotland.
So, Sam, how did you get started in hobbying? I mean, you mentioned that you planned the basic brush a decade ago, but how did you get into gaming and painting and stuff?
I think it's the same as a lot of people. I think if you have older siblings, it's definitely a route into the hobby. But as I discussed in one of the podcast episodes, we were chatting about the fact that it seems like almost everyone that hobbies leaves the hobby at least once. So I started hobbying, we're talking all the way back in fantasy. My elder brother brought back a box set and it had these crazy knights in it, and I was like, I know what medieval knights are, they're cool, but there was also these horses with wings, and then there was on the other side of the box set there was these amazing things, and they had just this what is now a static pose where you would be like, oh, this must be a small miniature company. But at the time, it was just so cool to have all of these weird lizard folks walking on their hind legs with big shields and these big clubs. And that was the very first thing we ever got. Was that second edition, I want to say? Warhammer Fantasy? I
No,
want to say second edition. It was the one where Magic came out.
no, second edition was out in the 80s. I think you're thinking about fifth edition, the one with the Bretonians and the Lizardmen. Yeah, that would have been the fifth.
Oh my goodness! Wow, I was way behind the curve.
Yeah,
that was still sold in shops.
yeah. I mean, I had started on the fourth edition. We're talking back in '94-ish, I think. And I used to think that was the third edition, but then I found out that the third edition was quite a bit older. And third edition was described by Rick Priestley, one of the designers, as one of the best war games no one can ever play. Because if you look at the rule book,
Because
it's
it never
big.
actually got released.
No, it did get released, but if you look at the rule book, it's a big, thick slab of paper. Okay,
Fair enough.
just to put
There
it
are
into
things about it I think that are better and are worse.
then
Sort of one of my favorite things that they used to do was, of course, the randomization, the cannons, where you used to be able to guess effectively where on the battlefield you wanted the cannonball to land, and then you would have to hope that the rolling would make it hit the opponents. That was
and not
probably my
explode. Yeah.
favorite thing, which they very quickly removed. They removed a lot of the randomization.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, one of my, I think we were talking about this on your last live stream, and one of the things that they removed that I really missed were the psychology effects like panic or fear. So you couldn't, you no longer have these units which are running around under their own steam and going whichever way. Like if a unit panics now, it just gets removed from the table. It doesn't block your own path and so on.
Yeah.
I think that kind of randomness added a lot to the game.
Yeah, I think the randomness absolutely adds to any game. I think it makes it more interesting when you just don't know what's going to happen. Even if you're playing at your A game, it can probably mess you up. I mean, we already have that with any game that has dice. I would argue that probably isn't going to be as competitive as it possibly can be, because all it takes is one bad dice roll, the Dreadball online World Cup that I lost. This happened years ago, but I'm still over it, completely over it. I was doing the last run of the game, 6 dice, needing 1 3-up to win the tournament, and didn't get a single 3-up. And from that day forth, I swore against never again would I play dice games until the next morning after I'd slept and felt better.
Yeah,
I mean, do you have any salty memories like that?
I am well known for rolling once on 2+ rolls. So yeah, it's not
It
even
reminds
funny
me of
anymore.
one of my favorite moments. We were playing. No, it's become predictable.
Mhm.
One of my favorite memories of it was we're talking back in, I want to say fourth 40k or third 40k. Which one had the Black Templars on the front? That was my 40k. That was when we played
Oh,
40k.
I'm guessing third. I'm not sure. This was
Okay, so we were
mid to
playing
late
that.
90s, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were playing that, and my friend had a Baden and a unit of Terminators. And at the time, Terminators, apart from maybe the Dreadnought, were the scariest things in the game. And I shot at them with a Venom Cannon, which was one of the, good old big blast templates. And I placed it over the top. And my friends, because it was a 4-person battle. The other team were like, "Ah, you're an idiot. Like that's not going to do any damage to them. You like it's a strength 4 weapon. You know their toughness 5. You would need 5s, and then he has a 2-up armor save. Like this is just ridiculous. And I can't remember if back then in third you got your standard save, and then you got your invulnerable save as well. Because in one of the editions you had that. Well,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah, I
I
think so.
rolled it, got all 5s and 6s, so wounded with every single one, and he failed every single one of his armor saves. And this is when Terminators had 1 wound, so I wiped the entire squad apart from Abaddon.
Yeah, I think
There is a there's a certain thing about if you don't know games. Sorry.
I think in the second edition, which is the one I started with, again the rules were a lot more complicated than they are today, because they had stuff like rules for dismounting from moving vehicles, jumping off motorbikes, and stuff like that. So more complicated, but it was a lot more metal. Yeah. So like having
Mm.
this guy jump off a bike to charge someone else. Meanwhile, the bike goes out of control and wrecks a dreadnought, which goes out of control and blows up something else. So yeah, more.
Yeah, I think it was yourself that was chatting about it, about where they shot the other units. I don't know if that happened in third and fourth, or if I do, it never happened. I don't really remember having any dreadnoughts myself personally. I was an Imperial Guard player. Catachan, Jungle Fighters.
Oh god, yeah, I love the Imperial Guard models, but the thing about them was that you needed so many of them on the table that there was no way of ever. My budget would not have allowed it at the time.
It's one of those funny things because Games Workshop itself, almost its ethos has sort of changed. And don't worry, I'm not going to turn this into a ragging on Games Workshop stream. There's enough
Uh,
of those going around at the moment. But it was back in the day where you could walk into a store and £100 meant something. If you were spending £100, they got out little ballistas, they threw in paintbrushes, they would give you a bunch of extra free stuff because £100 was a huge amount of models and whatnot. But it's a different kettle of fish now. But
yeah,
I had all of them. I think I'd probably watched Predator, probably a little bit too young, and I was like, if it bleeds, we can kill it. And I just was like, oh my goodness, it's like a unit of Arnold Schwarzeneggers, and that was what I really wanted.
yeah. Right now, I think about 100 quid will get you 1/3 of a game. I think. Yeah, I mean,
It's
I
one of those funny things. I would love to, I've always considered should I buy into Games Workshop, and every year I go, no, no, no. Games Workshop's peaked. They're never going to get bigger. They're never going to get bigger. And then, of course, their shares now they are worth more in shares than British Gas are in the
seriously.
UK, which is absolutely insane. But I would love to buy it. Yeah, it was newspaper headlines all around the UK for a while, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. This toy company, and it got them quite a bit of publicity, which is quite cool. But the reason I wanted to do it is I wanted to buy enough so you could go to the shareholder meetings or like attend or read the documentation, because that would have just been really awesome to be able to, see what the revenue is. Because I always wonder. You say spending £100, someone has pointed out that £100 will get you a single paint pot, and it obviously has changed significantly. But what I would love to know is how much of the revenue is direct revenue versus indirect. Do you buy? I mean, I don't know if this is going to be too many spoilers, but would you buy online direct from Games Workshop, or would you buy from a supplier? Where would you tend
Sam,
to buy
your
your stuff
camera
from?
is frozen. I think.
Oh, weird. It's still moving on my end. Do you want me to change camera? Do you think it's the actual camera, or do you think it's internet?
It might be sometimes Discord loses connection or stuff like that. If you switch off your camera and turn it on again, it should be okay.
Okay. Oldest trick in the IT book: turn it off and turn it back on again.
Yep.
If that doesn't work, then you switch to the engineering method of hammer.
Ah, there you go. Okay, you're moving again.
Ah, lovely.
So you're saying
But
about
yeah, well, where
the
where would you? yeah, where would you tend to buy from? Because that's something I'm always curious about is where does Games Workshop get their primary revenue from? Is it actually from their stores or is it from buying from third parties?
I have no idea to be honest, but the way they work, I'm guessing it would be third. I'm guessing it was third parties, but right now, if I remember correctly, they're getting most of the revenue through licensing.
Yes, from video games and books and audiobooks. Yeah, I was reading specifically for the miniatures though. I would love to know if third party sales eclipse in store party because it was one of those things. Is I actually had a toy shop in Carlisle for a while, and they gave you the miniatures at a really good discount, but they always dictated which miniatures you could restock with, and that was always
Hmm.
the killer. But it was funny because they were always pushing, pushing, pushing. We want you to sell our miniatures. We want you to sell our miniatures. But of course, in Carlisle is an actual Games Workshop store. So it was like, surely we're competing with you, which I always thought was strange.
Yeah, I mean, but again, the world of business has many strange things. Earthman Brick brought up a good point here. There was a lawsuit in the US with Games Workshop where many things were brought to light through the discovery process. One factor was that their boxes cost more than the contents of the boxes.
The cost of getting the cardboard boxes, because the cardboard boxes, I believe, I could be completely wrong, but the cardboard boxes and the book covers and maybe the books themselves are printed in a different country
Hmm?
and then shipped over. Because that it wasn't the miniatures that were keeping all of the launch delays. Now, of course, this could be completely hearsay. I'm not going to post up my sources. It's one of those funny things: is you read something online, can you trust it? I don't know. Do they play it at shareholder meetings? That would be great. No, I think the vast
I,
majority of people that actually own Games Workshop probably don't actually like the game. Sadly.
yeah, I mean, again, it's an investment thing, not a gaming thing for sure. Because otherwise, I don't think they would have made some of the decisions they made. Which is
Oh,
fair.
I
I
completely
mean,
agree. We
they need to
need
keep a business running, whatever it
discipline.
is.
Absolutely, and I think it's one of those things that people get very mad about Games Workshop on. They're like, oh, there's rules creep and there's power creep and yada yada yada. But at the end of the day, if they didn't keep changing it, people wouldn't keep buying it, and if they didn't keep buying it, it would die off like poor old Guild Ball. Did you ever play Guild Ball?
No, no, I haven't.
No. So Guild Ball. Well, I mean, you're part of the problem then. So Guild Ball was a game that basically it was a bit like Blood Bowl. You had your models. Each of the models was themed.
Could you put
So
your
this
hand
one's
behind
from
it
the
or something
Cooks.
because it's very blurred. Okay, that looks like
So this is the chef character from
oh,
it.
all right.
So he's got his big cleavers, and it was more of a war game than Blood Bowl is. Blood Bowl is more of a board game because, of course, it has all the hexes and whatnot. But unfortunately, there just wasn't anyone buying it new because people would buy their team. It was reasonably well balanced, and then they just wouldn't buy any more, which is. As salty as I get about it, talking about, the old world and Old Hammer and them getting rid of it, because I had every single army. Um,
Dude,
at the end of the
that's a
day,
lot of
people had
miniatures.
their armies and so didn't want to buy any more. It was a terrifying number of models.
Yeah,
That's the advantage of when you're, you know, a student but working full time. You can just buy whatever you want.
yeah. Before you start to learn things about fiscal responsibility and actual storage space and things like that.
Still don't know if I've learned any of those rules. With a baby taking some of my money, definitely things are tighter. But space, I always like to argue that whenever I get called a hoarder and they're like, "Oh, you've got so much stuff," I'm like, "No, no, no. You're a hoarder when you run out of room. As long as you have a cupboard or a space under the stairs or a space in the attic, you're not hoarding." It's my excuse.
Yeah, around here we usually say that if you're planning to use something, if you have a use for it planned, then that's preparation, not hoarding. So you're fine.
Say that to all the Pringles pots upstairs in my attic.
Yeah, I do have a few myself, which I will turn into terrain eventually. Eventually.
It, if you keep telling yourself it, it eventually becomes true. For me, it's the latest ones I've started picking up they're called stacks. I think they're by Doritos, but they're like a rounded triangle pot, and I'm like, oh, they'll be great. They'll be great.
Round the triangle pot. Nice.
Yeah, so the triangular, but instead of being pointed, they're slightly curved at the
Yeah,
edges. They're very nice.
I can see. How tall are they?
Same size as a Pringle pot. They're basically Doritos competition to Pringles.
Okay. Yeah, I think that that about sets my intake of carbohydrates for the next few weeks, if I can find them.
The maddest one is when you get stuff. We have obviously with the baby powder stuff. We've started buying something called Kendamil. It's a UK brand, and it comes in a pot about say yay big, metal with a sealable lid. And you get through at least one of those a week. He's now 3 months old, meaning that we have at least 12 pots or something like that. And I haven't been to a single one because I'm like, these are good pots. The problem is I don't know what I'm going to use them for.
I mean, once they're there, sometimes the idea will strike you if it's now or in 3 months or in 3 years. I'm thinking sometimes it just
And
happens that I'm like, just looking at stuff and oh, I could use this for something. For this specific thing, I mean.
well, I don't know when they start weaning, but if I kept using them up at the same rate in 3 years, my house would just be pots. That would be absolutely it.
Yeah, and it's funny how there are some things that you only ever hear gamers and crafters saying like, "This is a good pot," or "This is a good piece of foam," or whatever. You don't hear anyone else saying that.
I think my grandfather was terrible for it. I think anyone that has like a wood, they have the workshop out in the garden because I think that's definitely something I've heard people say this piece of wood could come in useful later. And you go in and
Hmm.
you ask them how old some of the bits of wood are. And you're like, I've had this bit of wood for 15 years, but I needed it for this exact situation, so it's all justified.
Yeah, I've heard
Do
stuff
you
like
have a
that too.
guilty project? Do you have anything like that?
Say
Do you
again?
have a guilty project or a piece of something that you've kept for far too long?
I do have some sculpts that I started in 1998, I think. And
Wow.
actually,
Do you
that's
wanna do you wanna feel really old? Shall I tell you how old I was back then?
how old were you back then?
I would have been in. Did you say 1998? I would have been 7.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Are
putting
these are
putting the
these
miles on.
Carl original ones?
Hmm?
Are these Carl original sculpts? Like, are these made by yourself,
Yeah,
or are these models that you started painting back then?
no, no, they're just sculpts that I never finished sculpting, so they're scratch builds. But they
Nice.
they
It's
will,
one of those amazing things that I absolutely love.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, the reason I'm so bad at this is because obviously there's a slight delay between you moving on the screen and it coming through, and so I don't see your mouth move, and then you start talking all of a sudden.
Yeah, I know it
Excuses,
happens.
excuses.
No, but please go on.
I was going to say one of my favorite things to look at is when you look at the old Golden Demon entries, especially if you go far enough back where you had Eldar, not Eldari, but Eldar, and the Falcon didn't exist, and a guy who I've actually met who lives in Oldham, not that far away from here, Scratch built his own and won. It was either I feel like it was bronze, silver, gold. It was one of the golden demons. I want to say bronze. But by today's standards, at the time it was revolutionary, but by today's standards, you wouldn't even get in the door. And I just think that's amazing how much it's changed. So looking at those models that you started all the way back then, how do you feel about them now? Do you want to finish them, or are you like, oh, time has moved on?
No, I will definitely finish them, especially because right now we have a challenge running on my Discord, which is the Vicious Teabagging Challenge, where we're building stuff which includes teabag as raw material. No actual teabagging.
I mean,
No, actually,
the
some actual teabagging.
grains are fantastic just for basing. But do
Yeah,
you mean the actual tea bag? You want the bag to be in there as well?
yeah. I mean, in my case, for example, I'm using the fabric of the teabag as material for some robes on this thing I'm building. But once we're done with that, then the next challenge was suggested by Steve from Earthman was the Finish Him challenge, which is basically take something that you've been putting off for any amount of time and just finish it. So yeah, I think one or more of those sculpts would probably be on the menu. It is their time.
For me, the oldest model I did it for, because we do a weekly painting challenge, and one of mine was paint the oldest model that you have. And I think I ended up finding an even older model. But at the time, what it was is actually from my dad's pile of shame. He gave it on to me. It was a hobgoblin. And this is, I think it's before even Warhammer was Warhammer. This is D&D Monsters, but made by Games Workshop. So it was still a Games Workshop model. And it's 1986. It was the hobgoblin. He's got a wee shield and he's got a mace. And that is the oldest model I have ever knowingly painted.
I think the oldest model I painted was let me one of these guys. Just find the camera, and it's from
Oh, he's cool. Yeah, it looks like still a great sculpt.
yeah, it is. I mean, it's one of those just Godwin's ogres. And I mean, if you compare him
And how old
to
is that? The
1980, but it's between 1984 and 1986. I'm not sure exactly the dating. I had looked it up, but I kind of forgot because it's been a while. But yeah, 1984, 86.
it's
And
one of those things is old models can hold up if they're done right. One of the things that I'm not always a fan of is when people put details upon details upon details. When a
yes,
simple sculpt with like a little bit of, adaptability to paint on is nice. Like, don't give me something that takes 100 years to do one model of.
yeah, I think Leif was saying the same thing last time on the live stream because basically you got all these pouches and details, but after the 36th pouch, it's like, why are you even doing this?
And why does someone in super armor have pouches made of leather? Like, surely they just get shot off. It's as logical as someone wearing power armor not wearing a helmet. I like the comment there. Ooh, cool chunk of asphalt. That's coming home with me. Well, if you didn't know, you can actually buy cork sheets, and that makes amazing asphalt on your miniatures. So definitely get that. I'm sure Karl can put an affiliate link in below for you. You can pick up some from Amazon. I mean, this one cost me £10. It's going to last me an entire lifetime. Again, that's not hoarding. That's keeping it until it comes in handy. And yeah, it works absolutely great. You can have an entire army based in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I got my cork sheet from the hardware store down here. I think it's I don't think the roll is as large as that one, but for about €2 you get enough to base far more models than is healthy. Okay, Zane Morgan Crafts, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And Zane is saying awesome bearder.
You should have seen it a little while back when it was still long. It was about 6 years growth. Unfortunately, I lost a weight loss competition, and the forfeit was you had to shave your beard off. So both me and my opponent failed to reach our goal. And because I was the loser of the two of us, so I lost 18 kilograms, he lost 20. I had to get a tattoo with his name on it. So I've got a Shaun the Sheep on my calf. I take bets very seriously.
Okay, yeah. And how much more weight did you lose when you trimmed off? It could have taken,
After I trimmed off the beard.
yeah, it could have
Oh,
taken you over 20.
it was surprising. Like I did it in two different cuts. Well, nah, I don't think it did. The sadder thing though is as soon as baby arrived, suddenly the hobby went out the window and the weight loss went out the window. So I've gone backwards a little bit, but you can't see from this angle.
Okay, campaign terrain. Oh, I've got quirk too, but I use asphalt for shaping XPS, and I never paint minis. Don't tell the basic brush. Well, that's a bit too late there.
What do you mean you don't paint your minis? Any miniature, it doesn't matter how well or how badly you paint, it is better than grey plastic. I guarantee you that. There was doing a troll post recently. There's a guy, I'm trying to remember the name of the channel, but his videography is out of this world, but his painting is just fine. It's perfectly good. You know, it's not Squidmard's level of painting, but it's lovely paint jobs. And people kept putting in his comments. They kept going, "I don't understand. The videography is amazing, and the paint job doesn't match the videography." And I was like, that really annoyed me because I was like, that's how polluted our minds have got with all the YouTube channels out there for people that paint incredibly well. Stop watching them. They take 150 hours to paint one model. You could have painted 10 armies in that time. And that's why I like it. It's one of the reasons I really, really like Midwinter Minis. And I think it's part of the reason he's done so well is because he isn't as good as them. I'm not saying that he's a bad painter by any stretch of the imagination, but he's more, what would the word be?
Realistic with the
Relatable.
time, yeah.
He's more
Yeah,
relatable.
I guess.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Would you say the vast majority of us paint more like Guy from Midwinter Minis than we do Emil from Squidmar?
Okay, oh, Dungeon Matron is saying, does beard hair count as a crafting item? You could make a paintbrush out of
I
it, I
mean,
guess.
you could do. Don't get me wrong. I was tempted to save some of it and make a paintbrush exactly, but it's very very spiky. Unfortunately, there's two types of beard. You either get the lovely soft, that's the same as your beard, your head hair, or you get this stuff, which is what I like to call pubic hair. Unfortunately, mine's the latter. I mean, you could probably take one hair and paint with it if you really wanted to. Hey, merch idea. Thanks very much. You can have 50% off of buying a single beard hair for painting.
Yeah, just for dotting the eyes and stuff like that. So we're
It's
saying,
one of those interesting ones is how do you feel about, pre-painted models? Like how do you feel about, these models that have been I think there's a term for it. I want to say ink dipped, but that's not the actual name of it. There's a name for it where you sun washed or something like that. You can buy models pre-painted. How do you feel about those?
I'm,
Better than a grey plastic?
I'm not really. The thing is that I have no problem playing with grey plastic. Absolutely no problem. I mean, I'll put that on the table. If my opponent puts it on the table, I have no problem with that. Because I paint when I get like yeah, today I feel like painting. I'm going to paint. No? It's not something like no, it has to be
See,
painted
I
before it
go
goes on the
with
table.
the idea of. See, I don't judge anyone for. No, I do judge you. If you've not even primed the models, I definitely judge you. You're telling me that a zenithal model doesn't look better. I mean, just for being able to tell the model's quality. If I hold this red thing up, I wonder if my autofocus will work better. If I do that, does that work any better? Or is it still pretty?
It's still pretty blurry, but
This was a. Oh, that's
okay,
actually.
that works.
If I remove that away, I would say that zenithal highlighted improves a model tenfold, 100-fold, because then you can actually see the detail. When it's shiny grey plastic, you can't see all the wonderful sculpting. So there's no excuse.
Fair enough, but then
I
again,
did it to prove that there's no excuse. One of my first videos.
okay, yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say one of my first videos, I zenithalled every single built model I owned, 1,281 models in several hours to prove that it looks better and it doesn't take that long to do.
Yeah, but then again, at the same time, when I'm playing a game, I tend not to stop and admire the miniatures so much.
Just play with tokens, man. Save yourself the effort. This is disgusting. I didn't realize I'd be insulted like this. But then again, what should I expect from someone who starts a stream at quarter
Quarter two.
two?
Still,
So you'd be
the
quite happy with just colored plastic, like in Zombie Side.
I have played with just plain cardboard tokens with unit names written in pen on them, so it absolutely does not faze me. What was I going to say? That's a point about what you just mentioned about that channel you said the videography doesn't match the paint quality. It's kind of weird because
Yeah, he did an amazing video recently about pro painting.
yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, why does
You might have seen it. It was absolutely hysterical.
I don't think I have, but if you can throw it over later, I'll have a look definitely. Uh, why do we expect people to have both skills? I mean, if you're a pro painter, you don't automatically have amazing video skills. I mean, if you look at, I guess, okay, so if you take Luke from Luke's APS, he did invest a lot of time and effort into learning videography. So there's that, but an average pro painter will not also have excellent camera skills. An average photographer will probably not have great painting skills just by default. Know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think in the YouTube sphere of you know, miniature painting, I think people have come to expect that from, those kind of channels. They would both almost grow at the same rate. One that I always like to point to that sort of doesn't match up to that was Treverian. Treverian's, for the longest time, I watched his videos because the knowledge and the skill set he has is incredible, but his videography was very lacking. And it's absolutely delightful that in the last couple of years, you can just see like where he just amped up the production value of his videos, and his YouTube growth correspondingly went
Oh
up
yeah, for
very,
sure.
very quickly. It's one of those things is if we were going to take someone who scales and delivers information very well, Vince Venturella. Vince Venturella should have a much, much bigger channel than he does. Now, his channel has had significantly more growth since, Ninjon and Miniac have sort of, been dragging him into the limelight. But it's things like his audio. It's still not as good as some other people's audio. And I'm like, you've been doing this for years. Why is your audio not beautifully crisp?
Yeah,
Because everything else about your video is amazing.
I think he spends just say, okay, I'm going to invest all my time in being the best miniature painting tutor out there, and yeah, whatever else is okay. But yeah, I mean, video production is important, but
You know what? That would be a really fun game to play.
what?
I was going to say that would be a fun game to play. Trying to choose a topic in the miniature hobby, trying to look it up on YouTube, and trying to find a topic that he hasn't covered. I think that would be a pretty fun game to play.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult as well because he's been around for ages and ages, hasn't he?
Almost as long as you.
I haven't been on YouTube that long. So let's see. 1d6 crafting damage and Dean Paint Stings just joined the chat. Hey guys, Dean Paint Stings recovering from broken collarbone. Ouch. Well, get well soon, man.
I know. I'm looking forward to your videos. You came out absolutely swinging with all these amazing videos, leaving us wanting more. There's someone who came out with videography skills that nobody was expecting.
Dean, yeah?
If you've never watched Dean Paints Things videos, you need to go in and have a look at them.
Yeah, for sure.
Incredible videography.
So hope you get well soon. Man.
Are you hiding what you did? because I remember reading what you did and how you broke your collarbone.
Is it something we should go into?
May
Because
decide to hide it from you. It's funny.
okay,
It's not something you would expect to have happened. Let's put it that way. I'll find that video for you later about the pro painting, and I'm sure you can put it in the description for people to go and watch at their leisure.
okay, for sure. Now, how about we look at some majors rather than just talking about them?
See, this is the thing, right? See, both in my live streams and my videos, I always get told off because at the end of the video, I don't tend to show the final model, and I'm like, it's because that wasn't the point of the video. I think again, a lot of people have started to come to an expectation at the end of videos that you want to see a fully painted model, whereas in my techniques, I like to paint, like, say I'm painting a leather strap. I want to paint the leather strap and then not paint the rest of the model. I want you to be looking at the leather strap, whereas loads of other creators, what they'll do is fully paint the model, and you're like, okay, so you use the stippling technique, but you painted the rest of the model not using stippling, and I can't tell which bit's which. Or do you think that's an unfair accusation?
No,
Do you think I'm causing a beef here in the YouTuber community?
I don't think so. But it is an expectation that people will finish the model, but the work in progress is a lot more important than you don't learn by looking at the finished stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dean Paints Things
I think it's an
says,
expectation now. People want to see a fully painted model.
yeah, again, but again, I mean, you've got to look at different audiences as well, because some people will look at YouTube as pure entertainment, and they're just watching people painting and just relaxing. And some people, like me, for example, I don't usually watch painting videos for entertainment. I watch painting videos to learn something. So I want to see that particular bit in detail with the work in progress. I don't care if you finish the rest. It's I'm not looking at the rest right now. But I mean, you get a bit of both.
Although, so you're the kind of person that if they show you, if they make you laugh one time during a tutorial, like, unsubscribe. I was here for information, not entertainment. That's harsh, man. It's harsh. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm slightly worried if you're
am,
still subscribed to me. I thought I was
I
slightly
am very
funny.
strict about that. Yeah. If I even crack a smile, that's not subscribe. So Dean is saying, I went a little hard in the parents' race at my daughter's sports day. That is hardcore. Yeah. Okay.
He broke his collarbone in a kids' race. That is.
What kind of?
I mean, I can't be the only one who wants to see a video of him trying to paint with a broken collarbone.
Yeah, let's avoid that, to be honest, because that sounds terribly painful. But I mean, yeah, breaking collarbone at parents at a sports day. I don't think your kid goes to military school, so yeah, it must have been something to see though. So speaking of which, let's jump onto the miniatures. Let's look at some pictures.
Oh no, this is where they find out I'm a fraud. I can't paint. Oh, to be fair, you're starting off quite flattering because this is actually probably the model where where when you start off painting, you're like, oh, why am I not a good painter? Why does my stuff not look as good as Angel Heraldez's stuff? And you ask yourself that question. You watch all the tutorials and you get all the advice and you completely ignore it because you don't want to spend that much time on it. Because whenever I watch these videos where they're like, "Oh, what is the secret?" Here's, James did a fantastic video on 8 Rising Miniatures. You should definitely go watch it. 3 things that he learned about painting miniatures for 21 years. And again, I'm like, coward, because all these people that are talking about techniques, we all know what the technique is. Spending more time. If you spend 500 hours on a model, I guarantee it will look better than if you spend an hour on the model. But that's not what we want to hear, is it?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, rant aside.
I mean, you do pick up some tricks, like, for example, which colors you shouldn't mix together, or how how you should highlight stuff and so on. But yeah, 99% of the time, it's literally just spend more time.
And this is, speaking of time, this was the model where, I stopped lying to myself about, techniques and stuff like this. And I accepted the fact that if I wanted a model to look good, I just had to spend a lot more time than I was spending. Like when people say to me now, oh, I've spent 100 hours. I'm like, dude, I would spend that. If I had 100 hours, I would spend it painting entire armies. My favorite video that I've done so far that didn't do as well as I'd hoped is the one where I painted 200 models in, I generously say 2 hours. In actual fact, if you take into account the actual time I spent spray painting, it was more like 20 minutes, because it was just, spray painting over the top, over top. The rest of the time was set up. But this was the first model where I spent like a huge amount of time painting it. And this was, we looked it up, it was 2013, 2014, this model was released.
I mean, I particularly like the effect on the eye on his knitting that's really standing out. And I think you did some kind of texture
Yeah, so
on the armor.
Yeah, what you've got to remember is technology has moved on just a ridiculous amount in 8, 9 years. So this photo at the time was, an amazing photo taken with a camera, and I was like, wow, look at this. But obviously now, by modern standards, I don't even, that's probably not even an HD photo. I don't know what it is. Um, and I actually sold this model, and it was Sergey from MiniQuest 64 says, well, can you not just message the guy and ask them to take better photos? I was like, why? Why have I never thought about that? So I do plan on getting nicer photos of this. And I remember just being incredibly proud of how it came out. The color gradient on the armor, it was just something I'd never managed to achieve. The cloak there looked very, very glossy. Another testament to how Games Workshop paints have changed over time. But it doesn't look like there's a lot of contrast, but it's a lot nicer. He says, very frantically trying to make you believe him that the model looks even better than it does. Apart from the face, the stuff I still struggle with is the same stuff that I struggle with, 8 years later.
Really?
Faces that are not made, that anything that's skin toned, I struggle with. If you make it like a green skin tone, I'm perfectly happy with it. I'll add purples and browns and greens, and I'll be very happy with it. But if it's light skin toned, I think it might be partially because I look like Casper the Friendly Ghost most of the time. Scottish ginger, terrible combination.
Yeah, it could also be some kind of because you're more used to seeing that kind of color, even if you look in the mirror, then you're going to spot every little way that's off.
Yeah, for me, Horus fought over, hundreds of thousands of planets. And unless his superhuman physiology somehow protects him from getting a tan, I always imagined him more as like an Italian sort of skin tone. So I wasn't actually trying to make him look like me, like I said, just painting on Korax white and just having it done. So I was actually trying to do a different one, but I actually rebought this model. Not the exact one. I did try to. I offered the guy a ridiculous amount of money to buy back my model from him, but he was like, no, it's the leader of my army. I'm not selling it. So I bought another one. So I do plan on repainting it. But this model was painted. I want to say the Sons of Horus. It was painted to look like. Because I believe the very, very first ones, the Lunar Wolves, was their armor white?
I have no idea.
Maybe? No idea. Okay. Well, if I say it
and I am
confidently, people
happy in
might
my
believe me.
ignorance.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm still
I'm
proud
not.
of that model. I wouldn't say.
It is a good model. I mean, I love the shading on the armor and stuff. It looks really good. But
And to this day, I don't know if I could paint that good. I think if anything, I've got worse with age rather than better.
really, why is that?
A prize? I don't know. I just don't paint like that anymore. I don't paint for time. I paint for speed because like I said, 1,281 models primed. That's more than I can paint in a lifetime if I don't get a move on.
Yeah, true. So
But just before we move away from this picture, a prize to anyone, yourself or in the chat, who can tell me what model that is in the bottom right-hand corner. What model is that? I've got no idea. I was just curious if anyone could work it out.
No clue. I mean,
Is it Tyranid? I have no idea.
oh, it looks spiky and stuff, but that covers around 95% of Games Workshop models, so yeah. Okay, Dean is saying, skin tones are hard. I've painted a handful of faces that I'm actually happy with out of the hundreds that I've painted.
Well, there's your problem, Dean. If you're painting handfuls, you should probably be painting the face. Shh. You do have sound effects. You can put on the noise, can't you? No? Oh.
Uh, to be honest, I've kind of found a recipe for pale skin that I'm kind of okay with. And I just keep using that all over and over. So if you look at most of my miniatures, you'll find that they all have the same skin tone regardless. It's basically,
I think we all do that. Not necessarily with skin tones, but I think we all get very proud of certain things. Like, I'm happy with my purple recipe, my red recipe, and my turquoise recipe. So you'll find that my models are almost always featuring red, purple, and turquoise, and I doubt I'm the only one that does that.
yeah, I don't stick to a color scheme usually, but for some things like skin tones or leather or that kind of thing, materials, I will generally stick to a particular recipe. I think I watched a video by Laila Mev recently where she was talking about that, like using a color scheme which she's not familiar with, because she usually sticks to a particular color combination. And yeah, she was talking about how difficult it is to kind of break out of your lane, kind of thing.
Yeah, she was saying that while painting, like, I think it was a Genasi mage. It was like a half water Ifrit model. And at the time she's going, and I hated how this came out. And I'm looking at it going, I would give my left arm to be able to paint like that. Just like, oh, it's come out terribly. And I'm like, oh, right, okay, sure.
Yeah, we all have very different definitions of terrible. Okay.
Exactly. And that's why I would say that this is still my definition of good in terms of my miniature painting. Anything else you show from this point is going to be downhill. Apart from the resolution of the photos might be nicer.
Yeah, I guess. But again, I really like the shading on the armor. Okay, jumping on the next one.
Turquoise, mate. That would do. That would be Templar, Saurus Templar turquoise, or Templar turquoise, and then it'll be icy blue, and then the darkest one will be Caliban green. It hasn't changed. Those three colors. They might be named something differently now, but those are the three colors that I would have used back then.
All right. The green base is interesting. So yeah, okay. All right. So what about this one?
A mind flare. So this was after I had just got the airbrush for the first time, because I was one of these people that also just thought airbrushing was so expensive. Now, again, when I looked back in 2009, 2008, whatever, I'm sure airbrushing were expensive, but it probably wasn't as expensive, and people are getting more and more readily into it. So the one that I bought first was called a Sparmax. It was £100. It's got its own condenser,
Hmm?
and it comes with airbrush as well. It's fantastic. I've actually bought two of them. And this was just me messing around. This was I believe, either the first or the second model I ever did with the airbrush. It's absolutely huge. Like, my thumb does not do it justice there for how big it is. It's absolutely ginormous. Like maybe the size of my palm, so like
All right.
5 inches or something like that, 6 inches. So it was really easy doing, and it was a lot of fun. And I think this just proves. There's also when I think another thing clicked of like underpainting, because with an airbrush you can get your paints unbelievably thin because it's thinned with air. It meant that I used just loads of colors underneath. I just went crazy. I was like, right, what colors have I got? I'm just going to splatter this all over before I do an airbrush of like a lighter lilac over the top.
So that's
And
how
I think it came out great.
is that how you got all these very very fine gradations over here? Because some of them are really super subtle.
Yeah, they're all underneath. It's all underneath, and
Oh,
it's
okay, so
that main light lilac over the top. And where the lilac's really vibrant, it's because it was left white.
oh, all right. Nice.
It's the same idea with what I do with washes now, where I'll do like a solid color underneath as a base coat, and then wash the rest of it. And then what you end up with is, the parts where the dimples are brown, and then the rest of the face is, skin colored or whatever color you're trying to make it.
All right. What about these markings here, the dots?
I was looking at a picture and it had, like these sort of dots all over it. It was an octopus. And so I was trying to copy the octopus's picture.
Okay.
And so that's purple ink. In fact, you could probably see the ink in the background. Again, hadn't used the inks before. Absolutely love them now.
All right.
I think it's in the very top left-hand corner. There's the purple. There he is there.
There it is.
Hello. And this was also the beginning of the end for Games Workshop for me, where I would switch to Vallejo paints just because I, like a lot of people, whenever you want to paint, how annoyed you are when the paint comes and it's dried out. And this was
yeah.
my first sort of go with dropper bottoms. And yeah, because of that, I switched and never looked back. I still use things like contrast paints, technical paints, but their main paint range, nah, I just use Vallejo.
No, I never tried contrast paints or technical paints yet, but now that you mentioned, one of the big things for me when I came back into the hobby, wet palette. The wet palette was
Yeah.
a game changer. I mean, like it's one of the things that really changed how I paint.
I definitely don't use the wet palette enough. I mean, even in my live streams, you see, admittedly, with the live stream, I decided to challenge myself with dry brushing an entire army. So obviously, a wet palette wouldn't help if you're dry brushing. However, that's sort of where I went with it because I wanted to work on that approach. But yeah, the wet palette, I've got a red grass one,
Mhm.
and I can definitely, in theory, see where it is. But because I paint almost always trying to do it as fast as possible, that almost always means I'm not using wet palette. So I'm a heathen. Ironically, I want to do a video about why you should always thin your paints. So now everyone watching this stream will know I'm a hypocrite when I bring that video out.
Tell me about this effect around the eyes. It's looking really good.
Yeah, again, so the octopus itself has the highly reflective color around its eyeballs. The reason being is, of course, the deeper you go, the less light there are, and loads of creatures use bioluminescence to actually glow in the dark, which I think is unbelievably cool. Of course, what that means though is predators are looking for the luminescence to eat you. And so what the octopuses have is they have these really bright colors around their eyes to deflect extra rays of light that would normally hit on the like say on my cheekbones or his cheekbones.
All right.
It would deflect the light away from the eye. So by having light colors around the eyes, it actually deflects the color into their eyes, where of course there's barely any light there in the first place, that deep down. And so that's an actual thing that in the nose it doesn't happen, but around the eyes that's an actual thing that happens with octopuses as well. I don't know why they have the dots around the eyes. That might be
No
just
idea.
cool.
But now that you
But
mentioned the effect on the nose, I think it balances out really nicely. If you just left it around the eyes, it wouldn't have looked that good, I think.
yeah, I think at that point I just still had paint in my brush. You like again on the live streams, you've probably noticed that I'll sometimes make odd color choices just because that's already wet in my palette, and I'm like, go for it. Like if I have to paint 1,000 models, and I probably own 3,000, I've probably got 1,000 already painted. I've got 1,281 to paint. I've got even more that still need built. So why not? Who cares? It's like if you've got kids, let your kids paint a model for you, and then go ahead and never repaint it because who cares if it's one? Fair enough if you gave them Bellacore, but that's your own fault if you gave them Bellacore.
Yeah, that's another thing, to be honest. Some of the more recent models, and I'm talking last 2, 3 years, I think. I don't think I would trust myself to handle them. They're just too. They look too fragile.
I mean, he's I thought you were going to go with I wouldn't trust myself to paint them, and I would almost agree with you because I don't know about you, but I suffer from the point where, see, when I spend a lot of time, so the Bellacore model, which I'm hoping there's a photo of, it was on my Instagram, but the wings came out amazing, and I became so afraid to paint the rest of the model that I then didn't paint it anymore. And do you ever have that? Do you ever paint something so well that you're scared to paint it again?
To paint it again or to paint the rest of the model?
Paint the rest of the model. Paint. I mean, the big one for me is whenever I get something, I've got a model dwarf bust that I'm particularly proud of. The skin came out so wonderfully, but my intention was always to do tattoos on that model. But after the skin came out so great, I was like, nope, I'm not risking my amazing paint job on on doing tattoos over the top.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, getting to a point on a model where you're saying, oh, okay, this part is looking really good and I'm not going to risk painting the rest, never really happened. I mean, unless it's all done, it's kind of, I won't say disposable,
Work
but
in progress.
yeah, if you don't finish the rest, then you've basically thrown away all the effort that you've done on making that part really good. But the other thing you said, like for example,
But you forget.
hmm?
You forget I'm a YouTuber, so I have an excuse because I can go, I'm going to finish the flame effects and the sword in a video at some point, so I need to not paint him.
Yeah, okay, fair
Become a
point.
YouTuber. It'll give you loads of excuses.
But the other one regarding adding the tattoos on finished skin, yeah, that would be something I would like. Yeah, no, I'm not doing this. It's good enough. I'm not touching it again.
Yeah, I mean, just even doing those dots, it killed me to do those dots. So I'm really appreciating that you've zoomed in right up close so I can see my mistake. No, I do think it needed it. And again, you'll notice that I didn't actually bother doing any additional highlighting on this
Mhm.
model because I was just so pleased with it. I think it's okay. I think when you're coming out with a new technique and if you're pleased with part of it, I don't think you need to push yourself to the next bit. Like I could have done gold trim around the rest of that model, but I was so pleased with it. I was actually painting it for someone else as well. My friend, he runs the Wonder Emporium GB on Etsy.
Mhm.
He's one of the biggest miniature printers, and basically the deal is he sends me a bunch of cool models. I get to paint a bunch of cool models, and then I give them back. So I don't
Nice.
actually have a lot of these busts
Yeah, I never
because I
actually.
don't have enough of a backlog.
I really never got into busts and dioramas and things like that because space basically. But yeah, they do look good.
Oh, they're so much fun as well because one of the things that's always going to be an issue with when you're painting one of your own models is one, fearing of messing it up because when it's on the table it'll look bad. But two, there's almost unwritten rules, aren't there? Like if you're running Blood Angels, they better be red. If you're running Dark Angels, they better be green. And a bust has no rules. There is no rhyme or reason to a bust. You've bought that purely because you want to paint it for no other reason.
Yeah, I guess.
And with miniatures, I don't think you have that.
Depends. I mean, yeah, unless there's some kind of uniform or stuff, I tend to freewheel pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you're a braver man than I am.
Okay, next up, another bust, I guess.
Oh, so it's funny enough. I said that was the second bust I ever did, and the second time I ever airbrushed. Well, here's the first bust I ever did, and the first time I ever airbrushed.
All right. Looks like some
So this
kind
is
of
the first airbrush.
plague doctor kind of thing.
It was indeed, and yeah, I had a lot of fun on this. And again, I could have painted more stuff. I could have picked out the metals, etc. But my aim with this, in fact, I might have done a little bit more to it actually in retrospect. I don't know if I did or not, but I was just like, you know what, this is my first attempt at using the airbrush and doing a bust, and I was happy with it. And Nigel, Wonder Emporium, was happy with it. And he was like, "That's great. Just leave it at that." I wish I'd done the eyes differently. I wish I'd gone in with the something I've really started to appreciate about glass is when people do. I've seen it a lot when people are doing Marvel Crisis Protocol. They do like comic style where you just have some white lines across glass
Uh
to
huh.
indicate it's reflective. And I wish I'd done that on these. I wish I'd done the white lines across the glass of the eyepieces to sort of sell that a bit more.
I'll be honest,
Yeah,
I
so
still like the effect you got in there.
yeah. Yeah. I do wonder, was I using that yellow on another model at the same time? Do you know what? I might have done that yellow effect at the same time as I did the other one. I painted a lot of these busts very, very rapidly in a row. Um, just again so they weren't just plain busts, so people could see, what you could do with them.
All right.
But again, yeah, I'm pleased with that. I wouldn't. I would have, like I said, if I wasn't just trying to use the airbrush and nothing else, I would have picked out the metals maybe a bit more. Um, you can still see here occasionally when I do this with reds. My reds can sometimes end up a little bit too orange.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I think that's always the danger with reds, isn't it? You can either go too orange or you can go too pink, or you can paint them properly and make them look red, but that's much harder.
Yeah, reds are tricky. Not quite as tricky as yellows, but definitely very tricky. But you need a different range of different reds because if you try to dilute them with, not dilute them, lighten them up with white or yellow, then you're going to get pink or orange rather than red.
Hmm. I mean, you sounded like a Skaven there. Red, red. Yes, yes.
Red, yes. Silence painting. Did you actually paint the stitching on the mask?
No, this is literally all airbrush. Not a single bit of this is paintbrush.
So how do you get it?
So if it looks like the stitching is painting, that's purely coincidental.
All right. Because I mean
Just,
the stitching
it
really
started
does
off
look.
with a very light color, and then I paint.
All right.
Yeah. So with this, I painted. It would have been zenithal. So it would have been a bright, bright white in those patches, and then I've gone over it with a light brown over the whole mask, and then I've painted in the shadows. So this one wasn't dark painted to light. This one was light painted to dark.
All right. Nice.
And you've got a hilarious comment in there. You've been reading out comments. Will you be reading out that one? Do you know
Uh,
who that is?
which one?
Jinx.
Uh,
Lee, 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 Lee.
no idea.
I wasn't sure if this was a thing from your live streams.
No, I guess it might be some kind of spam or stuff, I guess. Okay, we haven't had spam for a while, so it's good, I guess. Okay, so what do we have here?
This is the Horizon Zero Dawn game by Steamforged Miniatures.
All right.
And I wanted to see if I could paint every single model in the entire set in a single sitting.
How did it go?
And it went really well, apart from the heroes, which you can see in the front. The heroes are very small. The heroes are 28 mil. And I think we've become quite used to 28 mil being heroic scale because that's what Games Workshop are. They have the bigger hands, the bigger
Uh-huh.
heads, etc., exaggerated proportions. So those are the same height technically as a Games Workshop model, but in actual fact they're absolutely tiny by comparison. Like pinky width.
Yeah, because they've got the proper proportions for that scale, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Not like Malifaux though, where Malifaux has those really like I don't know, like skeletals. So these are they're a nice mix. They're hard to paint once you're used to doing Games Workshop. But this is again, I wanted to use the airbrush for nothing else but paint everything with airbrush. And the vast majority is done with airbrush. Even the bases are just done with airbrush. It's a shame this photo doesn't show the nice contrast of the base. And that's just because, obviously I'm using phone. I don't have a real camera or anything like that for those kind of shots. But the bases look even nicer. In fact, there's a more recent one I did on my Instagram of an updated recipe for this. And
Okay.
it shows the tones a lot better.
Yeah, we're going to have
Yeah, I really liked how they came out. And again, to do it all in a single sitting, one evening, maybe 4 to 6 hours, just, spray it grey, spray it white, spray it black, and then a dash of yellow and a dash of green, job done.
nice. I really like the way you got the dirt effect on the feet and the between the base and the feet and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's because again the base is just airbrush. So I'd painted the whole model And so when I'm spraying it on, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was deliberately hitting the feet,
Okay.
but I don't have that good an aim. So yeah, all the bases were done with the miniatures already in place. Hence why it has like splatter that comes up from underneath, but none on top. Because when I'm spraying onto the base, it was ricocheting off the base and hitting the underneath of the model.
All right.
And you think it looks intentional, which is great.
Yeah, and I'm also you've got a little glow effect going on there with the reds and stuff,
Yeah, with the eyes.
and that's all just
Yeah,
airbrush. Yeah?
it is indeed. Yeah, the yellow parts are in the game when you hit special components on the model, they break off. And my friend who I split this with, Gwen, she really wanted the glowing bits to be represented. So hence why I did all the glowing bits in yellow. But I have so many expansions for this to do because the base game arrived like a year before the rest of them, and now I've got the fear of will I be able to make them look the same? I don't remember which paints I used, which in retrospect was really dumb. Dean from Dean Paints Things always advises that you should keep a notebook, whether a virtual one or a physical one, to write down your recipes. And I definitely should. But I don't know about you. When I get really into painting, I forget about that because you get into the zone, you're enjoying yourself, you're messing around, you're mixing colors, and yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not very good at note taking in general, but yeah, that happens a lot.
But yeah, I was really happy with these. I really liked how they came out. You can see the black base rims are needing done. Where do you fall on the argument of base rims? Where does everyone else in the chat fall? What do we think? Does a base rim need to be black, or does it just need to be a solid color that fits with the rest of the model?
Generally go for black because it's easier, and I've done pretty much all my painted miniatures that way. But I'm not religious about that.
Yeah, I tend to go with a nice black glossy paint. Although, in retrospect, why do I not just put like masking tape around the edge? Like doing masking tape around the edge will presumably just be as fast and save me more time.
I'll tell you the truth. To be honest, I look forward to painting the base rim. It's kind of like
A ritual.
a ritual, yeah, pretty much. It's like, okay, I'm putting the rim, and now it is done. Put it down.
But wouldn't peeling off of it be even nicer because it's the original gloss of the base? Can you imagine the satisfaction of just except it probably wouldn't be like I'd be like oh a little bit of it's ripped off oh a little bit. And if that happened, it would definitely be worse.
Yeah, for sure it would be.
There you go. Earthman Brick is on your side. He says that rim jobs should always be in black. Fair enough.
Games Workshop in the 90s always had green bases. Yeah, I remember the super bright goblin green stuff.
Goblin green.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Dungeon Matron says black base rims cover a plethora of sins. Yep, indeed I do. Okay, so I'm guessing you went for some object source lighting here.
Yeah, I had. So I've just for this one, I just finished that Squiddy Boy's noses and mouth, and so you know how you always end up with extra stuff in the cup. So
Okay.
this was me using up the paint from painting that. Whenever it was left in the cup, I would pick up this miniature and just add a bit more. I cannot kid you enough what this looked like. I literally was sent a box of busts, and I was like, I need to get this done. I'm going to do it in a single sitting. Again, this is before kid. I just sat down one Saturday or Sunday and just airbrushed all of these back to back, back to back. If you look in the top left corner, you can actually see the purple still,
Yep.
and you can see the little puddle of it because it's still wet from me painting the previous guy. So, like when I'm saying I'm doing these in a single sitting, I mean literally back to back to back to back.
Yeah, that's
And
efficient.
I think that just shows you the speed of an airbrush.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Making black good is, I think, two of the hardest things in the hobby are black that looks good and white that looks good. Because if you just paint it just straight up white, it doesn't look as good, and if you do just straight up black, it doesn't look as good. So with this one, I think probably needs some more direct highlights on there, which I think you would struggle with the airbrush.
Okay, so that's something that you do go for the brush then, just for a normal paintbrush.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, my I had X amount of time to get these models painted and done, sent back so he could display them on his table in the next venue. And it's one of those things with commission painting is there's a couple of ways that you can sort of charge for commission painting, and one of them is they say how much they want to spend, and you say, okay, I will paint them for that much, but you cannot complain about what you get because I will get them to a done state, but they'll be done very quickly. Which is, I don't think a lot of people do their paint jobs like that because obviously the customer might not be happy with the way it looks.
Mhm.
However, getting it rapid done like that is a great way to do commission painting with keeping it realistic.
All right.
So campaign terrain is more on my side than your side with the base rims. Base rims should match the ground. But I don't paint minis, so do you. So do you. Yeah, well, in theory, if I was going to do it like that, if we were going to do models, in theory, I would do them rhinestone encrusted. On all non-metallic metal gold, because obviously I don't want to look gauche, but then it would be rhinestones around it as well.
Okay, so how do you feel about transparent bases?
Love them. I did my entire Zombicide Black Plague collection, which is about 400 something plus models. Cut every single one of them off. Painted every single model in that collection. Do you know this is the worst thing, and it's definitely something I regret. And I would say to any of you that's painted an army or a board game, don't sell it. Even when times get hard, it seems like a good way of making a quick buck. One, you'll never get the value that you deserve for the models that you painted and sold. And two, you will regret it. How many of these models have I told you? Have we come to a single model I've kept yet? We haven't, have we? So make sure you keep your models that you paint because man, you'll regret it. Obviously, if you're a commissioned painter, that might make things a little bit hard.
So you're saying this is cut off every single miniature of the base and then replace it and so on, because I was thinking of
Because
doing.
they have, yeah.
I was considering doing it for some of my miniatures, but for example for the Conan board game, but yeah, uh, I think they're too delicate. I mean, getting the feet of the base, there's too much risk of breaking them off.
Yeah, so some models I could literally take because some of the models have like a little peg underneath the feet. Obviously on the smaller models they won't, but an X-Acto knife and they just literally put the model on its side, put the blade right next to the foot, and just slice down. And that did the vast majority of them. For some of them that were tricky, I needed to use my clippers and cut the base.
Okay.
And so I cut either side of the foot, and then that removed the base, and then I just turned the model sideways and just cut off the big wedge that was left.
Okay.
But I did that, yeah, for every single model. In my video where I'm talking about doing fast tarmacking, I go like this with loads of bases, and those are actually Zombicide bases that I had left over. But yeah, I love clear bases. I would absolutely do it, especially with board games where you have like a gorgeous bottom like Conan and whatnot. I actually had Conan and I painted tons of it, but I couldn't get hold of one of the expansions, and so went in a huff and sold it all.
Yeah, so far I think I painted most of the skeletons. I've still got a bunch of them staring at me right there, waiting to be painted. But yeah, I will eventually
Absolutely,
paint
a
the
lot of
rest.
fun.
Okay, and here's a lovely building.
Yeah, so this was I used to have loads and loads of scratch brick buildings and buildings from Moortime, because the Moortime buildings are very, very nice, so the paper and plastic.
Uh-huh.
And I just at one point had some extra change, and I was at one of the war boots, the bring and buys where you're buying printed stuff, and there was a guy who had like an entire town's worth of printed stuff, and I was like, you know what, it's time. And so I ended up just buying like all of the town that he had, all ruined, because I really like ruined buildings. I'm not a fan of like big solid buildings, and I love the more tiny aesthetic. Another game system that I wish I had not sold in my stupid years when I left the hobby. But with this one, I painted all of it by dry brush. So all of the stone and the orange of
dry
the roof
brush.
were dry brush. Yeah, and I still have every other building apart from this one still in that done state where it's done enough. You don't need to do it this level. But for the Hobby Orders podcast, one of the challenges that we had was to paint a bit of scenery. And so I took this scenery and basically I did everything I would do to it. And it took, if the dry brushing took me, I don't know, per building 30 minutes to 40 minutes,
Uh-huh.
this took like hours. Like this was an entire night of just adding all of this, which is why I don't like to paint like this, because I'm like, ugh, is it really worth it? But I tried to tell a narrative with this one. I don't think in this picture you can see them, but there's a guard and a werewolf, and the werewolf has mauled the guard, and so when you put them in place, it's the guard has just been disemboweled, and it's their blood, and you can see the blood has dripped through the cracks on
Over
the
at the.
the top floor,
All right, yeah.
and you can see the blood at the bottom, and just out of shot is it like some guts that have like spilled down, so you see that tiny river of blood. Because I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. And I also bought a bunch of villagers and stuff, because what I wanted is like villagers in this ruined building as you like go through and see it all.
All right.
But yeah, and this is then these bits are like Mantic Loot Crate, which I really like their stuff. Again, just a quick dry brush on that and then stick them in.
Nice.
But I really want to. I really, really want to paint the rest of the town like this, because basically I've got one town which is going to be like this, where it's all in snow, etc. And then I have one where I want to do it like in the rain, so I'm going to have like autumn leaves and stuff. And instead of with this bright sandstone and orange, terracotta, it's all slate grey, and it's just makes a nice little difference between two.
Yeah, and you can put in little puddles and stuff like that. I think it would look good with
Yeah,
the stuff.
yeah, it's something I remember watching a video. Apologies to whoever it was, but I don't remember them. I don't remember who did the video. But it was a video about painting a model looking like it was in the rain, and it was
All right.
just incredible. It was a lady in a kimono, and she had one of those parasol umbrella things, and her skin looks moist from the rain. Some bits of her clothing have gone like almost see through because it's like stuck to her clothes. It just was incredible. Like you can tell she's in the rain without like like big puddles with like
Mm.
ripples on them to indicate that. And yeah, I'm not saying that mine will look anything like that, but I would absolutely love to have a go at looking like that.
I mean, the effects some painters can pull off are just amazing.
Yeah. Campaign terrain. Yes, Sam, don't want to come off boogie. I like to boogie every Saturday night. I don't know what that means. Have I got a booger coming out my nose? I mean, it's not that good of a camera.
Not that I noticed. Okay, so I think you told me earlier to grab some photos of your Instagram, but I was too lazy to do that, so we're just going to jump to your Instagram instead.
Oh. Hopefully you got the right Instagram, otherwise this could be awkward.
I think it's your proper Instagram, including I think one with your original beard.
I know, what an absolute lie. Everyone that joined that live stream was like, what? This is false advertising. You don't look like this. I mean, I used to. I used to. This was if you scroll down to the bottom, this is when I just started the YouTube channel, and
Okay.
before Baby arrived, you'll notice I paint every single day. So there's a new
All right.
paint job every single day, and then Baby arrives and it just falls off a cliff.
Oh, I think this
Yeah,
different
indeed,
angle of
there's one of the
the.
Gribblies.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, looking a bit more done.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
This
was
looks
really
awesome.
really pleased with. Yeah, this one was this is from Rising Sun Miniatures, which is an absolutely great game by Cool Mini or Not, and it was painted entirely using. Oh, I want to say speed paint. It was either speed paint or contrast paint, and I just wanted to show several different techniques that you could use in conjunction with it,
All right.
and it came out very nicely.
Yeah,
Again, my objective is always to try not to spend too much time, which I've kind of failed with. I've only managed to paint 14 models on some of our live streams, and in an hour and a half, that is not good. I need to up those numbers, but I'm too busy reading the chat. I've had such a lucky time of, and yourself as well. You've had such a great turnout of people coming in the chat. I think that's always my biggest fear when I started the live streams, is there'd be nobody in the chat, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, which I would talk to myself happily for 2 hours, but still,
yeah.
it's
I mean,
always
it's
very
always
nice.
encouraging when you have people to talk to.
Mm. But those that one there with the Armada, I was very pleased with that up one, and yeah, that one there was absolutely fantastic. One of the people that was at the event actually brought their camera along,
Okay.
and so I've got some like sexy photos because I have absolutely no aptitude with cameras at all, and I don't like I said, I don't have a camera. So it's just great for that someone came along and just look at that. There's something overwhelmingly amazing about having a fully painted army.
Oh yeah,
And
for
yeah,
sure.
it's a fully painted orc marauder fleet, and yeah, that was
This is
painted.
for Kings of War Armada. Yeah?
It is indeed, and it was painted. I believe just 2 nights before the event. It wasn't wasn't just one night. It was 2 nights before the event. I gave myself plenty of time. Um, but
How?
yeah, and again, a lot of that's airbrush.
Okay.
Hence the sails giving that nice sort of rippling effect of grey and black. The base is again airbrushed blue with that was the first ever time I used the water effects. I say first ever time of using the water effects. Who am I kidding? It's the first and only time I've used the water effects. I don't know about you, but I collect tools. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And so when someone's like, oh, what would you like for your birthday, or what would you like for Christmas? I'll put stuff in an Amazon wish list, and I'm very lucky that occasionally someone will pick something off that list, and someone bought me the Vallejo water effects, and I really liked them, except my box wasn't quite level, so a lot of it ran off the sides.
Ah,
So it's not as good as it might look from this distance. You can almost see that it looks like I've done a gloss effect rather than actually a layer of water effects.
that still looks great. How does the rule set compare to Manowar or Dreadfleet or what have you?
Oh, Man of War, we're going back a few years there. Now, I did play Man of War, but I don't know if I remember the rules well enough. The best comparison to it is Black Sails by Warlord. Have you played any Warlord games?
Only some Hail Caesar and some Pike and Shunt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are certain overlaps between them. So basically, you've got depending on the size of the ship, you've got a different number of guns. So you have, for example, your ordnance, your big guns that don't need line of sight and shoot up
Mm-hmm.
onto the sky. But then you've got your forward, your aft, your etc. guns, your port and starboard guns. And so when you come up alongside stuff, you have different gun types. Then there's minuses or positives depending on your range. So obviously, if you're shooting at a big ship, you get bonuses. If you're shooting at a small ship, you get negatives. And if you're using the wrong type of, as in you would say, sail away, sail away. Yeah. But yes, it's a lot of fun. And for me, as you said, Dreadfleet there, I bought at 1.3 big boxes of Dreadfleet. Again, built them, painted them. And then I just couldn't come up with a rule set that I liked. So when this came out, and it was based on Black Sails, which I did like the mechanics of, but Black Sails is, what's the difference between a French ship and an English ship? I mean, really, what is the difference? Not much. Ooh. But basically, this came out and it had orcs, goblins, elves, and so I went hog wild, and so my backlog of shame grew exponentially. But sadly, I've not kept up with the purchases. Again, baby means that we don't have the money to sort of spend on that. But I bought everything. Like as soon as it was released, I was like buying it, buying it, buying it. And now I'm behind, and it's one of those sad things. Is I don't know if I'll ever have the money again to buy the complete collection. It's like Dreadball for Mantic. My favorite game. It's slowed down in sales, which makes me really sad. So I bought everything. I've got every
Gotcha.
MVP. I've got every team. Like just everything, just in case. Black Sails was a great TV show. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, Black Sails was fantastic.
Mm.
I remember
Yeah, but
the
really pleased with those. Yeah, sorry.
no, I was saying on Black Sails the intro especially was absolutely haunting.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, hi
Definitely. If
Stefano
I was
from
better at
Camera War Gaming.
freehand, I would put the skull in crossbones.
Freehand is definitely something I need to practice more.
Mm. It's because again, it's the scariness of it. Like I was really happy how the sales came out, so I was not going to put transfers over the top of those. Well, I might have done transfers, but I was not going to do freehand over the top. That's for sure. There's another one night before the
Which one are we looking?
overdrive models, the top right and top left ones. Again, that was me going right. I have to get 12 models done. Although I did give myself a little bit longer. I gave myself 4 days for these ones. Uh, and again, these were all done with speed and contrast paints.
All right.
That was a lot of fun that game because I actually got to be on the playtesting team.
Oh, all right.
Um, and it was really funny because I would send Rob great big lists of questions, and he'd reply with like, nobody is going to ask about this specific combination. I was like, I would. So I don't know if he regretted having me on the playtesting after that, after I was sending him just screeds and screeds of really exact use cases.
What was the game exactly?
So it's called Overdrive,
All right.
and in many regards, it's a callback to older games like Time Splitters, where you have different modes. So you have Capture the Flag, you have King of the Hill, you have score points by just getting in the arenas. You have Dodgeball, except
All
it's
right.
called Dreadball. You try and kill people with the ball. You've got a Gladiator, where one model has the Gladiator token, and they have to kill people, and they're the only one that can score points. It's a lot of fun. It's very much a beer and pretzels game. So pretty quick paced and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
And one of
mean,
the photos there has the trophies where I won both the playtesters trophy and then the first ever open tournament they did. I also won that as well.
nice.
I mean, it helps that you've been playtesting it for a year.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. Get some experience in.
So I did. Don't know if you've just clicked on the gardens and more. Oh no, you clicked on these. These was hilarious. This was again when I'm doing my painting every single day, and I was like, right, I don't have a whole lot of time, so what can I do instead? So again, this was contrast paints. These are Rising Sun.
Hmm.
So one of the factions that you can go are the turtles, and the turtles' special ability is that their fortresses are on top of these giant warrior turtles.
Okay.
They're unkillable, and they're absolutely adorable. And they were like, right, I'm going to try doing some blending with contrast paints. So you can see there on the shells and in the skin, it's
Yeah.
yellow and green mixed together. Where I've just tried to do, because they're quite infamous, known for reactivating. So I was like, oh, can I use this to my advantage? It actually worked pretty well. I did green all over the turtle and then brown all over the shell. And then I went in with yellow and reactivated it so that I could actually move the pigments a little bit to get more yellow in some points and more brown in others, or in the case of the
Yeah, that,
green,
that's the
more yellowy green and green.
yeah, that's an interesting technique. I mean, intentionally reactivating paint to use that way is not something I ever thought of, to be honest.
Well, it's because I was making a part 3 to my series of 5 more ways you can use contrast and speed paints.
Aha, all right.
And I was like, all right, okay, cool. So I'm just trying different things. And I tried that. That's one of the videos that wasn't released. There's part 3. And I was very pleased because someone recently said, oh, can you please do a part 3? And I was like, oh, great. I didn't think anyone would want a part 3, but sure, I'll do a part 3. So watch out for that in the near future.
Oh, wow, I see that this one got liked by Adrian Smith. God damn.
Did it?
Yeah?
What?
Yep.
Oh, nice. Hello, Adrian. I'm a big fan. You're an absolutely. He's no longer with Kilbany, not they parted ways,
Is
so
it
he
he?
could
All right.
work on. Yeah, he started. He wanted to work with more groups for inclusivity in wargaming,
All right.
and board gaming, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but yeah, if
What?
you're
How did I miss that? It was liked by the Adrian Smith. I didn't know that. That's so cool.
yeah,
Oh
it's
my
his
goodness.
official account. But yeah, I mean, if the official artist who drew the the concept art for this game likes your minis, I think you're doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm embarrassed that I didn't put more effort in though. Uh,
Okay, I think these are the.
Oh, this is the photo of me rushing the night before, to try and make sure that they're all painted up. And one of the funniest things happened actually, not to this army. I don't know if there's a picture of my Vanguard, but there was actually a funny thing that happened at the finals. You were actually to bring two different armies, and you played alternating games. So I had my Night Stalkers, and I had my Varangar with me. The Varangar were in a box underneath the table, and one of the staff members was walking around recording. And we're just finishing up. So I'm in the semi-finals. I've pretty much won with my Night Stalkers. So my next game is going to be Varangar, and the guy trips, and he steps forward and puts his foot under the table straight into my box of models and just
No.
crushes them. Yeah, and I had the final match up, which actually was ended up deciding who was going to be the this season's winner, for overall winner for all games, and based on your sort of your average scoring and whatnot. And basically we had to play, some of the models were just bases, and I'm like to my opponent, I'm so sorry, but
Oh.
I can't do it. My model's in pieces. And the guy felt so bad, and I was like, look, dude, accidents happen, but he ended up buying me the Abyssal Dwarves that had just been released, which was very, very nice of him. Those were the nights before. There was
I,
a picture there as well, which is one of the ones that I really like. That one there on the far left. It's hard to see what it is, but if you click on it, you'll find it's 100 models of the Game of Thrones board game.
okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's a lot of them.
because I painted all of mine, and I just wanted to play them all on a match. I wanted to see, like, it wasn't a good list, but I drowned my opponent in models and made him feel bad about his unpainted models. But yeah, these were me trying to speed paint smaller models with contrast, which they work to a certain extent, but they definitely, the highlights you can see there on the cloaks
No, they look very
just
good.
aren't there. Yeah, well, they're not as good as if someone had done it with standard paint and brush. But again, the idea of having a paint that you can just do one layer with was a wet dream for me. So when they announced that, oh, there's a paint that you need to do one thing with, as you can imagine, as someone who likes to get stuff done and quick on the table. It's also funny, there's one of my friends, Richard Stockdale, who plays in a lot of these tournaments. He's a very good player.
Hmm?
But if you think I'm fast, he's incredible. He gets an army done a week. Like, he plays Kings of War a lot, and he must have like 8 or 9 armies. And during lockdown, new army every single week was just done. It was incredible.
All right.
And I'm not talking about small armies. I'm not talking about 100 models like this baby army. I'm talking about rank and flank, huge
Yeah.
armies.
All right.
I'll need to send you some photos. I don't even think he has an Instagram, but incredible painter.
Yeah, I have painted 8 of my Song of Ice and Fire miniatures.
Shame on you. Get them done. You're as fast painting as Maniac.
Say
Well,
again?
what is it that holds you back? Why don't you paint faster? Is it because you want them to look really good and you have this ideal that you hold yourself a standard? Or
Just because I'm not in the mood to paint most of the time. I prefer building terrain to painting miniatures.
fair? Fair. It's normally the other way around. I think people sorely let their terrain let them down a lot of times. So that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think I finished the dogs from the Bolton unit, the hunting dogs.
Hmm.
And okay, I painted the dogs. Now I have to paint the archers. I don't.
Hey, whatever takes your fancy. If you find a model that you want to paint, that definitely makes the battle easier.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's the thing. I mean, like I've painted archers before. I never painted dogs really, so I just went for the dogs.
I would say let's play a game, but I think we're a bit far apart.
Yeah, it might take a while to carry everything over there and back. These are from the
Oh, so this was the.
labyrinth, yeah.
It was indeed, yes. Um. So Ludo is definitely one of my favorite characters. He's just adorable, isn't he? Smell the pit of eternal stench. Um. Yes, I just I spent a little bit more. This is me. You can obviously see I'm trying to practice with my greys and blacks, and to be honest with you, pretty pleased with how that came out. Actually, I'm not very good with greys and blacks, but that actually ended up with quite a nice gradient.
It did, yeah.
Again, dry brushing. I basically do dry brushing, or I do airbrushing, or I do
The
do
eyes
the
turned out
contrast
really
of speaking.
good as well.
The eyes weren't done with dry brushing. I'll tell you that. The
Yeah,
eyes
I'm
were
sure they
definitely done
weren't.
with brush and paint. But yeah, the models are fine. They are very soft, which, as you can imagine, makes it difficult for dry brushing. Having said that, I've started watching Artis Opus,
Mhm.
Byron over at Artis Opus, and that man is a wizard with a dry brush. And I was so impressed with it that Claire actually bought me the dry brush set
Mhm.
for that. And they were like £60 or whatever they were, and I'm too scared to use them. give me a big makeup brush any day that costs 50p. Give me something that's £60 and I just get terrified to use it.
Yeah, so it's just what's in the kit, basically.
Uh, so let's see. So you've got the lovely logo on it. I'm not sure what the logo is. I no idea. I'm guessing that's Arts Opus, and it has the set of 4 going all the way from the small dry brush to the top dry brush. These are made of mink, the highest quality. You've got your brush cleaner, your brush waxy cleaner, and
Okay.
then you've got your bit that you dip in. So this is one of the funniest things. The biggest tip that he does for dry brushing is you actually don't do it dry. So what this is it's like a little sponge inside a glass, and you wet that because if your brush is too dry with dry brushing, it
Okay.
gets chalky. So you have to wet it after you've taken the paint off. And then this just certificate of authenticity, even with the number there, telling you what number it is. That
All right.
shows you how much of a luxury item it is. Although considering it's in the hundreds of thousands, it's I guess I'm not that unique. Do you know what the saddest thing is though about this? The
What is?
saddest thing about it is the fact that the extra layered dry brush doesn't fit in the box, so it has to be separate. How
No
sad
way.
is that?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Ah,
So it doesn't fit the box. It's a very nice brush.
sounds like a very strange design flaw.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
thought.
Dean Paints things the
I guess
same.
because to make it cheaper. I don't know.
Fear of using expensive products is real. Yeah, for sure. My dear half bought me a set of broken toad brushes, and I am terrified of ruining them. Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah. I mean, especially with something as okay, brushes are consumables at the end of the day. I mean, you're not going to have it around forever. And when they're that expensive, yeah, I can imagine
La
it's
la
like.
la 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 la. Don't listen to the bad man. Don't listen to the bad man. They're precious. Look after them.
I mean, I do look after them, but they will
I mean,
will
maybe
get ruined eventually.
maybe Dean can do a little video on how to look after your brushes and stop paint getting in the ferrule and stuff like that. And then that way, maybe if you get over your fear of broken toad, I can get over my fear of Artis Opus. Because mine were probably cheaper than yours was, that's for sure.
Okay, so let's jump back into.
That's the sum total of my army's been.
Say again, sorry.
I was going to say that we've seen the sum total of my miniatures. We've looked at all the nice ones. It can only go downhill from here.
I was thinking we can just look at a couple more of them, and then we can go look at whatever the others posted in Discord, so we can go over those. But
I feel so bad because the end last time I was finishing one of my streams, the end popped in and said hello, and that was the end of the stream, and it was so
ah,
beautifully timed.
well, we're still here for a couple more minutes, I guess. So hello, the end. So there was another mini I
Oh,
want.
that one came in. There's Bellicor. If you go down a little bit, there's Bellicor, who I was inordinately pleased with the wings on.
Where?
I'm surprised I haven't done a close up of Bellicor. Oh, it's in the group photo. So just to the left of the Drow model. So down a little bit, down 2, and then over 1. So
Okay, there.
that's it, and then over 1. Yeah, the Drow model's another one that I was really pleased with. It came out really nicely. But yeah, you can't really see Bellicor at the back there, but the wings just have this wonderful transition from the darkest of
Yeah, it
blacky
shows.
browns all the way through to a red. And Yeah, I was so pleased with that, and the red of his capes and the non-metallic metal on his armor. Everything about him came out perfect. And so I got to the other source lighting on the base and on the sword, and I went, "You're gonna live unpainted for the rest of your life."
Yeah, but
Oh.
I can see why you do, after putting that work in on the wings, you would be hesitant about going for the rest.
Yeah, and it wasn't airbrushed, and that's
Oh,
why I was
that's all
even more
that's all
pleased
hand
with it.
painted.
It's all dry brushed on. Yeah,
Nice.
it's all dry brushed. Trying to use what I'd seen in Byron's video about making the brush damp to try and stop the texture build up,
Mhm.
and it worked great. It was still hard. It was still very stressful. This whole army was actually another one of those speed paints. It was done in 2 evenings using brand new speed paint,
Okay.
and that's why the colors are so ridiculously varied amongst them. Oh my goodness. One of your users has said the most gross thing I have ever seen. Like, I think you should block them from your channel.
Right, I like to
The
use a
more
step.
expensive the brush, the better for stippling. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Right? I like to use stabbing motion like in Psycho.
Just-
Wah, wah.
it had to be cross.
Yep.
Oh, good.
I mean, Campaign Terrain sounds like a channel name. I'll be checking out your channel after this. I'll be checking out
Yeah,
everyone's channels. There's definitely some names on here I don't recognize.
yeah. Cross makes some fantastic terrain. Especially he's got a series on making semi-indestructible terrain, which is
Unless I'm just not recognizing the name and I'd recognize the logo. Because remember Campaign Terrain?
okay. So
Maybe. Okay, so there's a reason. If you look on the other photos, you'll see there's a picture of my cat,
yeah, I did
and
see the picture of
I
the
was
cat.
trying to copy his eyes for that. So I was taking
There it
a
is.
photo of Salem, and I was just trying to duplicate his eyes on the drow.
Oh, this one.
Oh, there's some naked chaps.
Yeah.
There's a lot of naked men in my painting.
All right. But here's the cat.
Yeah, he drives me crazy because if you look at his fur, he's a very, very pretty cat. But if you look at his fur for painting black, it doesn't look as black as he is in this. But he has incredibly black fur, but when you look at it, it's actually got like all. Look, I mean, look at that. He's got white.
Mm-hmm.
He's completely black. He has not a scrap of not black fur on him. But look at what the light does. It's absolutely incredible. You've got whites, you've got browns, you've got reds. And those eyes. So yeah, the eyes of the drow are based on my cat.
Yeah. And he's a lovely boy.
He is. His sister is also very pretty. She's got like a white stripe across her tummy, so she's not quite as black as he is.
I think there's a picture of her as well somewhere. Yeah. I think I
Oh,
saw.
probably. And they
Uh,
probably were the most popular photos on my entire Instagram. If you do hashtag cats of Instagram, you're guaranteed to get a lot of likes. Oh no, this isn't. This is my friend's cat. Oh, there's
okay.
Bellicor. Bellicor's in danger. Um, but no, my friend has it. It always makes me laugh. My friend has two incredible cats. They look like snow leopards. They're called Minerva and Albus, after the Harry Potter characters.
Okay.
And their cats were an eye-watering amount, and it always makes me laugh because my two little panthers were £50 from a rescue centre for the vet fees, and I would say that my little black panther is equally as pretty as his fancy designer snow leopard. And yes, will that cat try and chew models? Yes, yes, it will.
It's a cat, of course it will.
In fact, that's why I was speed painting the Death Guard armies for this game actually, because I
All
go
right.
up regularly to Carlisle where I used to live and play with friends, and we just spend an entire extended weekend playing games, which is always good. But the cats always jump on the table.
They must be like, why are you playing with the food?
Yes.
And yeah, I get this was when we were talking about transfers earlier. Yeah, this looks like a lot of
Oh yeah,
transfers.
I hate doing transfers, and I find little transfers so fiddly to do. And then I had to do these monstrous transfers. And you know what? To a certain extent, it got me over my fear of using transfers, having to put these on, because
Alright.
that tree is broken into maybe 2 or 3 parts, but the
Oh man.
actual tree is 7 foot tall. So it's just a nightmare trying to get no bubbles. And of course, if you get bubbles, it's just going to fall off the wall. So I had to do all those and all those individual leaves, and it just made me want to absolutely cry. So actually, I was like, after doing these, because it's done on 3 walls, I was like, you know what? I bet you I could do a model transfer. So I haven't tried it because I don't actually have. I definitely have transfer sheets, but not a model that's painted and the transfer sheets that match. But yeah, a little bit big for your models. You wouldn't be able to fit those in the models.
And here's a picture of the little guy.
Yes, indeed. That was him literally just born. The one that would ruin all my. I did actually manage to get a video done that week, but only because I'd partially already recorded it and I just needed to edit it. And then after that, there was a big gap, and I still haven't managed to get into the role of because there's a lot less time trying to paint something every day, like having something different every
Mhm.
day done. Even with my time schedule, it's a pain in the butt to try and get done. The tarmac bases I was so pleased with. I was like, how have I never seen someone do a video on this? I'm sure there are videos on it,
Okay, but
but
before
this
we
was
take a look at
great.
that, yeah, obligatory tentacles. We need to have some tentacles on the stream.
Yes, yeah, that was just the Green Stuff World's Green Stuff roller.
Alright.
And it's a lot of fun to use. And this was for the. Did you take part in the paint pot challenge?
I didn't know.
I tend to miss out on these sort of community challenges. I don't have my finger to the pulse and whatnot. But this one popped up on my Instagram, and I was like, that is great because basically the idea of it is they wanted you to convert a pot. You didn't need to paint the pot. You know, it wasn't about the painting competition. It was just about turning a pot into a model. And the community got around it so well, and like everyone was so nice to each other, and there was such a beautiful range of painting. And I think it's so rare that we see that in painting these days. There's a group I'm in Facebook called Heavier Metal Painting,
Hmm.
and obviously it's an homage to the heavy metal team of painting. And you get pretty much daily there people are too stressed to picture up their models because you're like, oh my goodness, so all of you are so good at painting. I'm scared to put mine up. And it's the same thing with Instagram. I absolutely hate the fact that all the recommendations for Instagram are these amazing channels with tens of thousands of subscribers because they paint amazingly. If you look on my subscribe list, you will find that barely 10% of the people I follow are pro painters who paint amazingly. And the rest of them are Joe blogs like me, because to be honest, that's the kind of painting I want to see. I want to see people whose painting I can do. And I'm like, I should be getting my stuff done because they're getting their stuff done. And this is something I mentioned earlier about I just don't think there's enough YouTube channels of not bad painters, but relatable painters doing stuff. And I just wish I could find them, and I follow them as many as I can.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we only get to see the top levels kind of thing, because, and everyone else is like, but okay, if that's the normal, because that's all I see on YouTube, then I must be terrible.
Exactly, and it's one of those things. Is the way YouTube works is you will only get shown to those people as
Mhm.
you do more and more and more. And I firmly believe that anyone could get to 1,000 subscribers, get monetized if they just keep at it long enough. Because the longer you do it for, the more varied you do. Every time you'll get a new person who's at the same paint level as you and has the same opinion of me, of just wants to see relatable painters. Get out of here, Dane. You're a relatable guy. You're very nice. Dane, sorry, Dean. It's because you've been painting Lord of the Rings. Relatable. You're an excellent painter, but yes, you're also a relatable painter. I will give you that. I feel worried because I don't want you to use relatable to ever mean bad. That's not what I mean. I just mean that it's not someone that spends 100 hours on a single model. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
how
exactly.
infuriating is it when you see Squidmar and he paints an army and he paints it in like 4 hours and it looks better than something that you've done in your entire lifetime?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and these are the tarmac basis, yeah.
Yeah, I was so pleased with how they came out. Like, just literally went outside, put the cork on the models, sprayed it black with a rattle can, dusted it grey with a rattle can, cut a triangle in a piece of a rectangle in a bit of paper, put it on top, stabbed at it like the psycho motion with a makeup brush to give that effect of it stippled on with the lines. Moved the paper over, stippled it some more, sometimes stippling the full line, sometimes stippling it. And I'll be honest with you, I'm delighted when they came out. I would put those up there with the best bases I've seen on models. It's absolutely ridiculous because, of course, when I stick the actual vehicles on top of that, you're not going to be able to see any
Most
of
of it, yeah.
that base. But I was also just unbelievably
Sorry.
proud of them. I was really pleased how they came out.
How,
And for the time, 20 minutes to do the whole thing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they look great. How do you get that dirt effect on the large one?
The dirt is I bought off of Amazon for about not Amazon, eBay for £5, just bags of powders. So it's like weathering
Oh, okay.
powder.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, got
And
you.
it's just stabbed into it. Then the puddles, the brown stuff is streaking grime,
Okay,
splatted on there, and then just some tufts. And then the in the bottom left one, the one that looks kind of grey, that's graphite.
okay.
I think I was trying to make it look exploded. I can't really remember why I did it like that, but I did. But this video is really sad because I actually recorded 3 different tutorials for this video,
Mhm.
but lost the footage
Ah,
for all of them, and I couldn't face redoing all 3. So the only one that I could get done, edited, and the video out on time was this one, which was the tarmac, which was the fastest. If you look at the top right-hand corner, you can actually see one where I was making a base using purely PVA and paper to create all the texture.
alright.
And then those bits are from one of the little pots, like £3 from IKEA. And it's just one of those little plants stuck in there. I did put the finished pictures up on Instagram, but yeah, I just couldn't face redoing them. I didn't have enough bases to do it on, to be honest. But these are from my orc army, which is basically all vehicles apart from the bare minimum number of grots that I need to complete the army.
Alright. So, I mean, I love the way the textures on these came out. Just
Mm.
really good work.
And it's just so easy, so
Yeah.
absolutely easy. Like 20 minutes, and I can't remember exactly how many there was. I think there was 15 grots, 1 grot herder, 6 bikes, and maybe 6 big vehicles. So quite a few to have done in 20 minutes, but like I said, it was just blah 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 blah, 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 done. Most of the colors just done by the rattle can, and it was really easy.
Yeah, I guess. Nice. Okay, so I think we should go and have a look at what everyone is up to in Discord right now. I'm not sure what
Sounds
they've
good to
been
me.
putting in there, but if anyone has any stuff they'd still like to put in, I'm just going to
And
put
you're
up the
gonna
link again.
bravely live stream it. My goodness, who knows what they're gonna have put in there?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm trusting people to behave, which was probably fast track to being shot off YouTube. But yeah, I mean, come on, we're nice people, mostly.
Earthman I'm a lazy painter. You can be a lazy painter. You can still get tons done.
Okay, so let's find.
Oh my goodness, you want to share that? Oh, that'll get you. Oh my goodness, that was illegal in 14 states.
One second. And here we go. Okay, so
Wow.
first up, Earthman Brick. I think this was his take on the Games Workshop modders for the Necromunda game.
Goliaths. Yeah, that's really cool. I did like the new models. I actually, sometimes I have a fondness for old models, but I really like the new Goliath models. They're
Uh,
actually like units.
yeah, but this thing looks like it's definitely
Is
some.
that legal in the Necromunda game? Wow,
I imagine so. Yeah.
it's like a motorbike, but
I'm,
insane. And this scratch built. That's really
yeah,
cool.
I'm trying to guess different parts because I think there is some kind of hair roller in there. I know that this looks like part of a an MDF kit.
True.
Yeah, and these bits here too. I know that these are the chevrons he casts himself. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this video. This is going to be interesting.
The wires as well. And one of the things that always makes me laugh is when people take a base and they stick something on the base and they repaint it, and you're like, but it already looked awesome. Like if it already looked like really cool bark, why do it?
Yeah.
Oh wow, Mad Max meets Necromunda. That sounds amazing. That is a really cool model, and it's scratch built as well.
Yeah, check out the details on the control panel here. Nice.
That's way more detail than I would ever do. I love the screen as well. It's like got dirt, and you can see where the guy's like barely cleaned it. He's like, I've
Yeah.
cleaned enough where I can see out. You see that whenever it's been snowing. How's it about yourself, Earthman Brick? Gorgeous. And you said a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Lovely. I've got a whole bunch more YouTube channels to follow. Dungeon Matron, Earthman Brick, Campaign Terrain. Do you keep your live chats available after the live stream?
Yeah, for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
the only thing is that immediately after the chat, after the live stream, the chat goes down for some time, and then I think it's available again after 24 hours.
Oh, that's fine. I can come back and check it then.
Okay. Now these are by Sean. I think these are backdrops for his online D&D game.
Is that miniature
It's
or
a it's
photo
a
or
it's a miniature. It's a photo of a miniature.
so like you can feel it. That's
Yeah, it's
scary. Like
atmospheric
you
as hell.
can yeah. You can hear the floorboards creaking. You do not know where the sound comes from. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean all the textures and the this one looks far less creepy, but over here where he's got the lighting and stuff, that's looking fantastic.
And if you switch it, it almost looks like some of them are burnt as well. Like he's done the cracks in that top left. Yeah, that
Yeah,
definitely looks like the fire has like spilled out.
yeah,
I have
fire
never
indeed.
seen someone put so much effort into a floorboard. My goodness.
I mean, if you look at all of them, you've got the wood grain in each one of them. But again, this is good modeling and great photography. This is just awesome work, Sean.
One of the videos that I'm working on is 6 ways to paint your armies really quick, and
Hmm.
one of them is I like to call Sin City. I'm sure there's an official name, but I don't know it. And Sin City, have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's based on the cartoon where it's all black and white, apart
Hmm.
from the splashes of color, like a red scarf or red blood. This screams that sort of art style to me. Does
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now that you mention it, yeah.
Frank something? Is it called Frank Western or something like that? I don't know. I
Yeah.
think the main guy's called Frank. That is awesome.
Dungeon Matron. Oh, you make tiny books.
Books. And the reason, assuming those are legs and those are some feet, those are pretty big mini books as well. What I would say they're probably maybe 2 or 3 inches by an inch or so.
I have no clue. So,
See if you can open them. Imagine if you could open them and they're full novellas each. I would love to know why. Why are they making loads and loads of books?
I have no idea. I mean, I've seen some on the Mordheim
Frank, no, that's
on the
tiny.
Mordheim Facebook groups, especially some people will put entire pages of text on, some of the miniatures have these open books,
Yeah.
and they'll put literal pages of text on that, or I think it's an homage to John Blanche. They always put, they also like to draw in this little Mona Lisa on there, kind of like an homage to John Blanche, because you can find it quite often in these pictures.
Blanche is still alive, isn't he?
Yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
always talks about homages to him, but I was like, I don't remember him dying.
No, you don't need to be dead to do an homage.
True, true.
Okay, and yeah, I think that's
Oh my goodness, an
that's
inch
a
by half inch. That's crazy small. It's really cool.
random bunch of fluff, I guess.
Is it a sheep?
No, I think it's just material. That's just in my beard last night. Didn't realize I should have collected it. You should always collect your clippings. You can make stuff with them. Okay, that seems to be all for today. Let's. Okay, so Earthman is saying that the wind.
Absolutely fantastic. You've gained a new fan, all three of you. Those are brilliant. I will grab your names after the stream.
Or you can grab them in Discord. I think you're on there, so you can just
I'm indeed.
drop in to say
Yes.
hi. Okay, second. Ding, 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 ding. There we go again.
It's just me until infinity. What a world would that be? Every single person looking like me.
That would be like what, being Sam, like being Joe Malkovich or whatever that was. So Sam, been at this for 2 hours and 12 minutes, so I think we should call it a day soon. Thank you so much for being here.
It's absolutely flown by. No, thank you very much, and thank you to your wonderful community. I will definitely be hacking up all of them.
Okay, anything else you want
Instead
to?
of like hacking up in my accent, I mean hitting up all of them. Hacking up, that's a very, very different meaning. For the next stream, you will have one fewer follower. Which will it be?
Okay, so anything else you want to add before we head off?
No, thank you very much for having us on, and remember to keep battling that backlog.
Well, thanks for joining us, and thanks everyone in the chat for watching. Hope to see you next week. Still have to sort out the stream for that one, and we'll be definitely on August the 7th, where we have the vicious teabagging stream with our challenge results. So have a great time, everyone. Good evening. Bye.